Okay, two readings to talk about today. First one is the Paideia proposal by Mortimer J. Adler, 1982. And so the basic premise here is that we're kind of like, in his opinion, we're halfway there in terms of proper public education. He says that the quantity of education has reached equality. You know, pretty much everyone goes to school from K to 12 for the same amount of time, but that now we need to make the quality of education equal for all. So really laudable goals. You can tell that he has an issue with the fact that some schools are better than others, and that it's not an excuse to have some schools better than others, because in a democracy our citizens all deserve equal opportunity. So I agree with that premise. The way he builds the argument and what he actually hopes for, though, I don't fully agree with. He talks about there shouldn't be options, there shouldn't be choices, there shouldn't be any differences, that everyone should go through the same curriculum, because that's the only way that it's fair. And a lot of the things he proposes seem misguided to me. And they also seem misguided to the next reading, which is The False Promise of the Paideia, a critical review of the Paideia proposal by Noddings. And so, Nell says a bunch of really interesting things. The first is that he criticizes the way that Adler connects Dewey and Hutchins, saying it's kind of irresponsible to say that Dewey and Hutchins were on the same page with equality of education, because they weren't, and they argued a ton in their own time. Dewey being more for differentiation based on individual interests. And so it's exciting to me to be able to reflect on actually what these thinkers thought, and be able to know more, and be able to represent their ideas accurately. He says that focusing on only academic learning is very wrong, and that's kind of what Adler's proposing, is that we have the best type of education for all. And then when he defines best, it's very academic, it's for the brightest, academically speaking students. And Noddings says that's completely wrong. We need to recognize that there's tons of different types of intelligences, and if we're going to value all of the different vocations in life, then we need to value that at school as well. So if we're going to value plumbers and farmers and bakers in life, then we need to find space to value that at school. We can't just say, hey, everyone's going to get this very academic, very abstract education. He's saying that, in practice, doing what Adler wants is working directly against his premise. The premise being that we should have a classless society, and that we should that everyone should get a good education. So Noddings also doubles down on the idea that students should not be looked at as just minds to fill. They are persons, they are people, and they need to be recognized as whole. So that's a theme that's been coming up that I really agree with as well. Freedom and choice is fundamental to what a democracy is, and so taking that away is a move in the wrong direction. He also criticizes this idea that schools are places that are supposed to fix all of society's woes. He has this crazy, interesting line. I suggest that it is not subject and activity demands that have overburdened our schools, but rather demands to solve problems of a society unwilling to bear its burdens, where they should properly be shouldered. A society unwilling to rid itself of racial prejudice asks the schools to achieve desegregation. A society unwilling to talk with its children about love, delight, and commitment asks the school to teach about sex education. A society unwilling to recognize the forms of excellence that Mr. Gardner identifies asks the school to teach everyone algebra. The greatest burden of the school, as a result, is trying to find some way to teach adequately intelligent students things that they do not want to learn. That was pretty deep, I thought. Another thing I really liked is this quote about pointing out what John Dewey counsels again and again. Any subject freely undertaken as an occupation, as a set of tasks requiring goal settings, means-end analysis, choice of appropriate tools and materials, exercise of skills, living through consequences, and evaluating the results, is educative. I'm so on board with this. Means and ends and going for objectives and learning from what you're doing is learning to me. That's education. That's life. And so I look forward to reading more about the wider picture of having less objectives in curriculum. But currently, I believe strongly that objectives are super important. They should be malleable, they should be differentiable. But if you don't have goals, you don't have anything. You're just an amoeba rolling around in the gook that is life, gunk that is life. So yeah, pretty interesting readings for today. This begins week 2 of the Masters. I've decided to drop my second course, teaching reading, and just focus purely on this one. I'm getting a lot out of it, I'm learning a lot, and I'm also not reading everything. And I want to take everything out of it. Because this is only a 3-week course, there's 32 readings in the textbook, plus I think like 10 printed readings. So that's 42 readings in 15 class days. So like I need to be doing 3 readings a day to be on par, and currently I'm doing 1 or 2. And so drop that course, try to catch up and actually read the rest of this. The next decision video-wise is when I go back to do, say, a reading from the looking back section, do I put it in this playlist in order of the textbook or in order of when I read it? And I think I'll do order of when I read it, but it's interesting. That's all for today, until I read more things.